Okay, well, hi there, everyone. Welcome to today's event. Thanks for your patience. The event is entitled, Will Cyber Insurance Pay for Your Ransomware Outbreak? And we're going to be talking about how to make sure your cyber insurance covers a ransomware event, and more importantly, how to avoid one in the first place. But before we get started, I just want to make sure that everybody can hear me. So if you could just find the chat box on the screen somewhere there and just type in, I can hear you. Okay, great. So apparently everybody can hear me okay. All right, so let's jump right in. Now, before we get started, because I'm going to be going over some of the steps you can take to protect your business, do me a favor and grab something to write with. Pencil, pen, whatever you got. Okay, so first, why the heck should you care about what I have to say, right? Well, I'll tell you a little about myself. For those who don't know me, my name is Jeff Anderson. I'm the founder and CEO of Centrion IT. Just a little bit of my backstory here. It's slightly embarrassing, but as a kid, I was the one who enjoyed taking things apart, my toys, other things around the house. So I was this kid. Yep, that was me, taking everything apart. Later on, I figured out how to put everything back together, but my parents were not happy with me initially. A little later on, I was about 10, I got my first computer. For those geeks out there, it was an IBM XT clone. So it looked something like this. Not a real IBM, mine was a clone, but hey, it worked, it did the job. And so, you know, it taught me a lot and I love that thing. So had it for quite a few years. I later went into computer engineering technology. So that's my background. I have been active in the IT field since 1998. I've spoken at industry events, plus, you know, we do our own webinars and other events here. But really, I just enjoy helping people with technology, you know, and so this is where, you know, we want to get the word out and help people protect themselves. That's what this is all about. So my security team has audited over 2,000 networks in the last 12 months. So I can tell you based on that where people are going wrong when it comes to protecting themselves and being able to make their insurance policy cover the attack. As you already know, ransomware and cybersecurity are a big problem these days. So that's why my security team and I are on a mission to help protect 1 million people. And so this educational webinar is a component of that. And before we get too far along, I know some of you out there are probably thinking to yourself, I'm running a small company, I don't need ransomware insurance, right? And part of this is because you never see small businesses in the news with a ransomware attack, you know, locking up all their data and keeping them from using their computers. But the truth is it happens literally every day. Statistically, 50% of small businesses are attacked every year to some degree. And the reason you don't read about it is because they hush it up. I mean, why would they go out and put themselves in a position and tell the media and make it publicly known? They're not obligated to. And so they just hush it up and quietly fix the problem and you know, go on their way. Some of them go out of business, that's true. But yeah, the big companies can't hush it up. Governments can't hush it up. They have to tell people. And if they don't, it gets leaked anyway. So, but that's why you see those out there, but you don't see the small businesses, but it is happening. So as I say, it does happen. So a couple of weeks ago, our security team helped a small law firm. I would actually call them a micro law firm to recover from a ransomware event. So they had 2 computers, some data in the cloud. That was basically it. But they still ended up being down for 7 days, and they still ended up paying the ransom. So it was a bad week for them, and that was just with 2 computers. The reality is all businesses are at risk. Small businesses, big businesses, businesses in the cloud, businesses with servers, even businesses that don't think they need their data. Everybody's at risk here, right? And ultimately, they're probably all going to have to pay the ransom. So what can you do? Well, simple, transfer the risk to an insurance company, right? They do have these products that are we call them ransomware insurance, but they call them cyber liability policies or cyber insurance, something like that. But the problem is this is not standard. This is not covered by your business interruption or your general liability insurance. This is a special insurance product. So you have to specifically apply for this, right? And here's the thing, right? As you can imagine, the insurance companies are not enjoying all these ransomware payments they're having to make. So what did they do about it? Well, they started assessing the networks of the policyholders and then denying the claims if they don't meet the requirements. So typically, either when you apply or when it comes time for renewal, you'll get a huge self-assessment questionnaire, and there's a component of it specifically about your network and security controls. And the one I'm showing on the screen here, this is an example of it. And you can see there's a lot of questions, and based on our experience, they're getting longer every year as they tighten down the controls here. So they're asking questions. They want to understand what it is you have in place. The questions are getting harder, and this is where the biggest mistake comes in, right? So what are they looking for? Well, we're going to go through the top 5 questions, and then if you cannot answer yes to these, you not only have a problem when it comes to getting your insurance renewal, but you're also putting your livelihood and your reputation at risk. But I do have an easy way to figure these out, so make sure you stick around to the end to find out more. Okay, so first question, do you have multi-factor authentication for email and sensitive information? Number 2, do you have backups and are you sure they're working? Do you have an up-to-date antivirus, active antivirus installed on all your computers? Do you have a written documented breach response plan? And lastly, do you have up-to-date active firewall technology? And key there is active. Okay, so what is it that they're getting wrong? Well, the problem is that a lot of business owners, they see these questions and they just answer yes to all of them without checking with their IT team, or worse, they just lie about it, thinking that nobody's ever going to check. But it's like getting travel health insurance, right? And you have a pre-existing condition like a heart condition or something like that, and you don't tell them about it. Well, eventually they're going to find out when you make a claim. So let's go through these one by one, and I'll show you how you can check these yourself, and I'll give you a way afterwards to know for sure that you have all these in place and that you're eligible for cyber insurance and you're properly protecting yourself. So let's see, first one here, do you have multi-factor authentication for email and sensitive information? So when you access your remote system from a different location or a different device, a new device, something you're setting up, are you prompted for more than just a password? For example, do you have to pull out your smartphone and open up an app and say, yes, I approve this, allow, or type in some sort of a code from an app or from a text? That's all MFA, sometimes also known as two-factor authentication. It's the same thing. So yeah, that's that one. Next is backups. This is a little harder. The best way to know that you have good backups is to actually test them. But if you're a business owner or business manager, you probably don't have time to do that. But you should be making sure that the people who are responsible for the backups are testing them and reporting back to you. Testing is different than just a report saying, yes, the backup was completed. A test is where you actually restore the data back and then validate it to make sure that it is correct and usable, whatever that data may be. We recommend this at least once a quarter to our clients. In larger companies may want to even do it once a month or once a week. It just depends on the situation. So yeah, testing the backups. So now that you've checked off the multi-factor authentication and the backups, what about antivirus? How do we test that, right? The easiest way is to go down to the bottom right-hand corner of your screen and hover over each of the little icons. This is on Windows, it'll be at the bottom right corner, and on Macs, it'll be at the top right corner typically. And what you're looking for is a little icon that says either something like antivirus or endpoint protection or security, something like that, right? If you don't have that, you probably don't have antivirus on your computer or it's not functioning correctly. based on our experience, we see probably 20% of networks that have missing antivirus on at least one computer, sometimes more. And it doesn't sound like much, one or two computers, not a big deal, but a network is like a chain. It's only as strong as the weakest link. So, if you got that one weak link, it basically makes the whole network vulnerable to attack, because the bad guys could potentially get into that one computer and then go horizontally and get into the other computers. So next, do you have a written documented breach response plan? Now, if you're the business owner and you aren't sure, you probably don't have one. And why? Well, because as the business owner, you would have to be involved in the communications aspect of it, at least, if not the technical part. And so if you aren't aware of the plan and the role that you would have to play in the communications, you would not be able to communicate on the company's behalf during an event. So typically, if you're not aware of it, it probably means you don't actually have one. And just to reiterate, as the owner, you are responsible ultimately. So good thing to make sure you have. Okay, last one, a little more difficult to measure, but you would typically know if you have an active firewall, because you would have installed it probably in the last 2 years, maybe 3 years, typically is about the maximum, and you would be paying some sort of a subscription for it. It's just like antivirus. You have to pay a subscription to keep all the advanced active technologies working. And it's important to keep these up to date as well, replace them every few years, because the technology changes to combat new threats that have come along. So it's important. Okay, so if you couldn't answer yes to every single one of the questions for sure, you will probably struggle to find an insurance provider to cover you, or if you do find one, you will probably have to pay a really high premium. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation that I had a way you could figure this stuff out simply and easily. But the problem is, well, your IT people, shouldn't be doing this, because you can't go around proofreading your own work. You won't see the mistakes. What you can do is you can get a third-party cyber insurance readiness assessment, okay? And this is what I'm going to offer to everybody on the call today. But the first thing is, you're probably thinking, this isn't my job, right? Well, here's the thing. Keeping the company secure is everybody's responsibility, even if it's just taking some of the simple steps that I shared earlier in the session. And you also may be thinking, I'm already protected. I have someone that does this. But are you absolutely sure that you're completely protected from ransomware and hackers? If you'd love to be able to answer yes to this, that yes, I am secure, then I would encourage you to take us up on the third-party assessment offer. Another question that may come up is, do I have to get my IT department involved or my IT provider? And the answer to this is, it's up to you. You certainly can. We generally advise against it. And the reason why is because the real bad guys, the hackers, they're not going to give you a heads up, or your IT department a heads up, when they're going to attack. They're not going to start sniffing around the edges and sort of say, hey, we're going to attack at Tuesday, so you got to get your stuff together, right? They don't do that. They come out of nowhere. So it's better, it's more accurate to do the assessment without warning, and then that way you get a more accurate representation of how things are actually functioning. Another thing you may be wondering is, do I need to provide passwords? Do I need administrative credentials? The answer to those is no. We do not need your passwords, and we do not need administrative credentials. This is very common. A lot of assessments will ask for these things. Ours is unique in that it doesn't require this at all. We also won't be installing anything. So nothing is getting installed on your systems. Nothing is remaining behind. We're not changing any settings, nothing like that. What we will do during the assessment is we're going to analyze your network, and then we're going to meet with you afterwards to review the results. And then we're going to give you the simple steps that you can take to protect yourself and your data. And based on that, you have three options. You can either take what we give you and you can try to do it yourself, and we would wish you the best of luck with that. Our goal here is to educate and to help people to protect themselves. So however that happens, we're pleased. So you can take it, you can do it yourself, you can have your existing IT department do it, your IT provider, great, no problem. Or if you prefer, you can request that we do it for you, and we'd be happy to do it, and we'll make sure we knock it out of the park for you. So what's the catch? Well, there's a little one, and that is the system that we use this to protect our high-end clients. And as part of that, we only get a certain number of extra assessments that we can do each month. So currently, as of today, for the month of November, we have about 3 left, I believe. And so basically what happens is anyone after the first 3 who signs up to get the assessment, you unfortunately would have to be put on a wait list. So it might be a month or 2 months, depending on how far down the wait list, how many people apply, before we can get you the assessment. Unfortunately, we just don't have enough of these. The other option would be you could pay for the assessment, right? And these sorts of assessments, depending on the size of the network, could be anywhere from $5,000 to $8,000, right? And so you're probably wondering, this sounds expensive, right? It costs a lot of money. So why am I offering this for free? Well, it's very simple. As it goes back to my goal at the beginning, and that is that, my security team and I, we're on a mission to help protect 1 million people. And this webinar and the free analysis are part of that mission. We want to educate, we want to get the word out, and we want to help people to protect themselves. So that's effectively what we're doing here. So again, if you're interested in getting a free third-party cyber insurance readiness assessment to make sure that you can, get that cyber insurance policy, and that if you had to make a claim that that it will actually be paid, I would encourage everybody to do this. So how do you apply? You go to centrion-it.com/activate. You fill out the little form. It'll send you a little questionnaire. There's a few more things that you have to fill out, and then you can book the initial appointment to go through that. So that's all there is. And I just want to know, is there any questions? Anybody have any questions? You can just type them in the little chat box if you have any questions. Okay, I see one here actually from Paul in the chat. Will they also ask if you have a training program for employees? Yes, most of the ones that we've seen, and again, it varies from one insurance company to the next what they're asking exactly. But yeah, some of them do ask that at least you have like an annual, some sort of an education program on how to spot phishing emails, how to spot things that aren't quite right. So that we are seeing that more and more. It's becoming pretty common now. Okay, so I've got another question here from John, and basically it says, does the insurance company rely solely on the self-assessment questionnaire, or do they actually test the network? In some cases, some insurance companies that we're aware of, they won't do a full assessment like from the inside, but what they will do is they will scan your network from the internet side to see how your firewall is configured, because the firewall is the gatekeeper between the internal network and the internet. And they will scan that, and because there are some really common points of risk that they can detect when they do that. So we are seeing that more and more, and I suspect that going forward, because I mean ransomware payments shot up several 100% since 2019. So they're getting really squirrely about this, and so they want to protect their they don't want insurance companies don't like paying out. No insurance company likes paying out, and so they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that you're less likely to have a breach or a ransomware event, and that makes them less likely to have to pay out, right? And we fully see that they're probably going to keep increasing these requirements. The lists are going to get longer, and they may eventually start hiring companies, third-party cybersecurity companies, to come in and do some sort of a penetration test or an assessment, something like that, again, just to validate what they're being told. What I can say is they definitely are doing this after the fact. So when you make a claim, if on the, they'll go back, and if you said on your self-assessment questionnaire that you had something, they will go back, or so they will go in after the fact when you make a claim in most cases, and they will validate that you did have that, because again, it's a way for them to deny the claim. So, you know, you said you had multi-factor authentication turned on for email and sensitive information. They'll go and check that and validate your claim, but they'll do it after the fact. They're not going to, in most cases, they're not going to do it before, like when you apply for the renewal or apply for the policy. They'll do it when you make the claim. And it's, health insurance very often works like that. A lot of travel medical insurance, that's how it works as well, because it's too cost prohibitive to do it upfront. They tend to do it when you make the claim. Does that answer everybody's questions? Okay, I don't think we have any more questions today. So again, thank you for joining me. And if you do want that assessment, again, it's free. It's a third-party cyber assessment, which means that it's not just our opinion. It's an accredited third party that makes the system that we use. So you can basically trust the results. It's not just us saying whatever. You can go to centrion-it.com/activate, and you can sign up for that. I'd be happy to go through it with you. And that's it. Oh, sorry, we just got another question here from Michael. For a small business, what is the average ransom demand, and should one consider self-insurance? Yeah, the ransom demand, it varies wildly. You know, for a very, very small business, you know, it could be 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, something like that, typically. And then when you get into the larger companies, I mean, it goes up into the millions, right? So you could consider, I mean, it's a, if you're on the very, very small side, and if you just, you know, budgets are tight, you could consider self-insurance. But the issue at the core of it is that effectively, by having the insurance and having to meet their requirements, you are securing your network better, right? So it's not just about the insurance. The insurance, ideally, you should never want to have to use the insurance, right? Like if you have all the security protocols in place and your backups are really solid and set up correctly, which a lot of backup systems are not set up correctly and are vulnerable, you should never need it. You should be able to just, you know, get them out of the network, restore everything from a good, known, solid backup, and then continue on, you know, your way. You might have a day of downtime or something like that, but it would be something manageable. So that's really the goal. The goal is you don't want to have to use the insurance. The insurance is there if you had a major event, something unexpected happens, because they will come in and they're not just paying the ransom, they're paying for the forensics work to figure out how they got in, what happened, what was vulnerable, all those kinds of things. They're going to pay for, you know, data recovery if necessary. They can cover PR, you know, if it gets out to the media. You know, they'll pay for all those services in addition to ransom. And the other thing is that a lot of insurance companies, they either have people on staff or they have people on contract somewhere that can negotiate with these ransomware gangs on the company's behalf, right? So they can get the amount down as well, which is something that typically most people, you can try negotiating, but if you're not a professional negotiator and you don't do it all the time, you're probably not going to be very good at it. Most people are not good negotiators, generally speaking. That's why people hate buying cars, because they have to go in and negotiate prices and haggle, and they don't like it. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of components, but yeah, generally, if it's up to you, but ideally you shouldn't need it. I mean, you shouldn't rely on it. The best thing to do is to make sure that you have all the security protocols in place and good solid backups. Okay, so we've got one other question from Paul again. Do you recommend that larger businesses engage with one of these specialty outfits that negotiates with the hackers? Typically, the insurance companies will do that. So if you have a cyber liability policy with an insurance company, they will have those resources and they will provide them for you as part of the cleanup effort, right? Along with the PR and the forensics and the data recovery and whatever else is necessary. Typically, that will be part of the package. So I don't think that you necessarily need to go out and engage with them directly. You could, it's an option, but it's one of those things. Typically, the insurance companies have those relationships in place. Any more questions? Okay, I don't see any more. So again, thanks for joining today. And if you're interested in the offer, the address is on the screen. And you can feel free to email me. My email is ganderson@centrion-it.com. Any questions you have, anything like that, feel free to reach out. I'm always here to help. Thanks, everybody. Take care and have a great day.